When I was starting out running my lab, certainly in the UK, people thought stem cells were vaguely ridiculous. It was a bit like a sort of unproven concept, like Bigfoot.
We have a lot of misunderstanding. So the public thinks of a stem cell in a very different way than it actually is.
Stem cells really represent a whole new approach to regenerative medicine, a new kind of medicine.
So we know that almost every organ of the body, the liver, the heart, the skin, have these primitive cells that have the capacity for regeneration.
Stem cells are simple. They are cells in the body, could be in the embryo, could be in the adult body, which have the property that they can make more cells like themselves. And they can also make cells that will mature into different cell types.
It can teach us about disease, it can teach us about how to prevent disease developing, and maybe in the end it can teach us how to reverse disease processes.
My role is to provide objective, accurate information. And it staggered me on so many occasions how certain groups have been fed a line and they believe it hook, line, and sinker.
Hello, I'm Tony Perkins, President of the Family Research Council here in Washington, D.C. One of the core principles driving our mission is that God is the supreme author of life. Unless we defend the value and sacredness of every life, at all stages, we risk the very foundation of civilized society.
You should not be able to put your ideologies of religion ahead of science, ahead of cures for the suffering. It is wrong to think that you are all-knowing and you can stop stem cell research because you're a fundamentalist in ideology. It's wrong.
Well, I think there are a couple of ethical problems right away. Number one, of course, is you have to destroy this young embryo, this young human, early in its development to get the embryonic stem cells.
One of the misconceptions is that human embryonic stem cells are taken from a human fetus that has a head and arms and legs. But whereas in fact those cells, or human embryonic stem cells, are derived from a 5-day-old fertilized embryo that just has a ball of cells but has not developed any organs as yet.
The first and most important point is that we need all types of stem cell research. People who say that we can only work on this stem cell or we can only work on that stem cell, the reality is that we're at an early enough stage of this process that we don't yet know where the cures will come from.
Over the last decade, when the science has been exploding, it's been incredibly exciting. We've also been facing a lot of political hindrances.
Some of the research is a little ethically challenging. We feel that it should be supported and move forward, and the government funding agencies are not able to put money into that particular research.
In the US, much bigger scientific community, very diverse opinions about what is acceptable or not. And one of the things that is very interesting about the US is the growth of statewide support for stem cell research, in part as a response to restrictions from central government.
Bob Klein and others in California changed the world with Prop 71, because prior to Prop 71 in California, the conversation in the country was, should we do stem cell research or not? And then after Prop 71 passed, the conversation throughout the rest of the country was, how do we keep up with California?
Bob was instrumental in fueling the initiative that authorized $3 billion in California state tax-exempt bonds for over 10 years to fund pluripotent and progenitor stem cell research or other related vital research opportunities.
I thank the ISSCR and its brilliant leaders because you hold the hope for our children, for their lives and perhaps our own, in this extraordinary movement of science and therapies in the stem cell field. I am a supporter and a believer in what you do, in the commitments you've made with your life, and in the change, the future of human suffering that you will accomplish. Thank you.
I quite honestly do not think I have it in me to be a carer for someone with a disease like Huntington's disease. My mother broke both of her arms lifting my father out of the bath. You know, you would think that it's the that maybe dying with a tube down your throat acting for your stomach is the worst thing imaginable. And no, it's not actually. Worse than that is the loss of dignity, as to watch a once proud man become a vessel, a shadow of the person that they were, unrecognizable. And it is also the innate right for human beings to do everything that within their power to try and make sick people better.
Everyone's family, everyone is touched by disease. And stem cells represent a very exciting new approach to both understanding the basic mechanisms of disease and a whole new type of treatment.
I live in a physical jail, if you will, unable to control my own body. First, a football player who only lived by his own body, it's been the hardest thing ever. I mean, it's almost even hard to put into words how hard it is to be paralyzed.
If somebody was to walk up and start attacking you, would your parents stand by it idly and say, oh, that's fine, have a nice day, you know? No, they would fight. That's what we have to do. A disease should be fought.
And that's why we have to have stem cell research, because that gives us the chance to get out of these chairs and fulfill the promise that Christopher Reeve once said when he wrote to me. And he said, one day, Roman and I will stand up from our wheelchairs and walk away from them for forever. And I plan on doing that.
What better time to let the public know where stem cell research is at, and that's why we are launching Stem Cell City.
Once you can distill it down to a simple message, then people can start appreciating the potential and the promise, and then embrace it.
But people always ask, what about the future? Where are we going? How fast can we get there?
Many people with different skill sets are increasingly joining together to tackle big problems that no one laboratory could tackle on its own.
Investigators all over the world are converged on a mission, which is to help patients who are suffering from so many debilitating diseases.
We thought that actually the stem cells themselves were going to be the medicine. In some cases they will be, but we can also see the stem cells now as actually being the patient. If we can cure the stem cell of its disease, we can maybe transfer that knowledge in a much safer way to the patient.
You can take cells from anybody in this room and through a process called reprogramming, make what we call a pluripotent stem cell, or the equivalent of an embryonic stem cell.
But those embryonic stem cells are the fundamental gold standard to verify and validate the types of cells we're creating.
So we could essentially make anyone's heart cells, liver cells, blood cells, or pancreas cells. Transplant that back into a patient and show improvement, if not cure. That's tomorrow, and I don't think it's going to be too far off tomorrow.
Drugs don't ever replace tissue function. Cells are needed. And so I really do think that the 21st century is going to see us learn how to deliver stem cells as medicines.
Which gives our scientists the opportunity to take their research from where it is at this moment and leap it to something that will take it closer to a clinical application. That's what we're doing with accelerated discovery, because whatever's discovered, whether it's in California or in Boston or here in Toronto, it's going to have global impact.
We don't want people to be harmed. We want to do something which is a real lasting benefit to people-kind.
It's been a miracle. I mean, I would never have predicted that it would be this amazing, but I'll go back to these cells can divide forever and they can turn into everything. So why should we at least be surprised?